Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Benchwarmers Sports Talk podcast. As always, I'm Labi, and Jacob can't join us this week, but instead of doing another solo episode, which can get pretty boring sometimes, I brought a couple of my other friends along. So I have my friends Billy and Kyle with me today. I replaced one Leafs fan with two new Leafs fans, and we're just going to talk about what's been going on in the NHL playoffs so far. So, Billy, Kyle, thanks for joining me this week, and I'm excited to talk about everything that's going on in the NHL.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, definitely excited about this.
Yeah, so let's just start with the Leafs. 2 games into the series, 1-1 split, and I mean it's been pretty crazy everything that's going on. I mean, talk about the Tavares injury in Game 1, and then a much better game from the Leafs in Game 2. Just what was your thoughts on Game 1 and the Tavares injury, and just I'm sure that was terrible to watch live for you guys.
Oh yeah, it was definitely hard to watch him get kneed in the face like that. But that whole first game, I didn't think we were gonna win. As you said in your last
Mhm.
episode, you were saying it's gonna be tough for the Leafs if we lose first if we lose first game. I definitely believe that that's true. Uh, us losing that game definitely put a damper on it. And then on top of that, one of our top point scorers, our third best point scorer, is out for the probably rest of the playoffs. So it's going to be tough for us.
Right, yeah, and I just think the narrative completely shifted the second that Tavares went down. Like it was all of a sudden like everyone's hyped up. The Leafs are finally like the best we've ever seen them. Where they should beat the Canadians. They should win the first game and all the rest. And then all of a sudden it's like everyone just kind of like got super taken back by the accident and like it just kind of changed into like, okay, is he okay for this? That entire game, at least from my perspective, it was like, okay, how's Tavares doing? Like this game is kind of like in the back. Like I'm not really watching this game as much like anymore. I'm just kind of worried about Tavares. I think that's what the players were thinking as well. And then just kind of seeing them come back for game two after like they know Tavares is okay, they know like what they need to do, and like they have even more like passion and reason to win this game for him. I think that definitely kind of just shifted the whole momentum of the series. And
Yeah, no,
yeah, like
that's so huge, especially because I think kind of like I was saying last week how if the Leafs lost Game 1, like all the narrative and all the storyline was going to be on like, oh, here's Toronto losing another playoff game. And like obviously you don't want your player to be injured, but like the storyline was all about the Tavares injury, and so it kind
mhm.
of gave the Leafs that out with like, okay, well the loss wasn't because they were playing badly, which I mean, they were, but the reason they were playing badly is because like they had to keep playing hockey after they just saw their captain get hurt. And so I don't think anyone was sort of blaming Toronto for not playing well, because like even Spezza was talking about how he was like talking to Tavares to like keep him alert, and then he just
Yeah.
and then he just had to play 40 minutes of hockey afterwards. Like I don't even know how he went through that.
Yeah, like they went from like just such a like traumatizing event and then just having to play an entire professional hockey playoff game. Like that's unreal. And honestly after that was the most supportive like thing I've ever seen from Leafs fans after the game, after a Leafs playoff loss. I don't think I've ever seen Leafs fans be more like we don't care like that they're fine. They're completely fine. Let's not go crazy over this just because of the circumstance.
Yeah, also you can really tell how different they played right after it happened because I think it was like a minute later the Montreal scored on us. Like they were probably just all so shooken up about it. Like they were just their head wasn't in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
For
well,
sure.
you're not going to expect them to go back to playing like playoff hockey, intense style of play, like when you just saw what happened. Because like that was such a serious injury. Like obviously injuries happen all the time in hockey, or you know, and also because it was an accident too. Like I know Foligno fought Perry afterwards, anyways, but like it would have been totally different if it was like a dirty hit because you kind of respond aggressively and like it almost amps you up. Where if it's something like that where it's an accident, it's such a bad injury, like it just like sucks the all the life out of your team, and it's like the exact opposite of like a dirty hit, which I think would fire your team up.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, what would you guys think about the fight? Like, did you think it like was worth
Um,
fighting or like?
I
should have
think
left it.
I definitely think he was in the right to do it because you have to think the players don't have like the replays of it going on like right in front of them. All like they don't know what just happened.
Mhm.
They didn't see if it was intentional or not. So
Yeah, no, I
like
also just think, like I heard that like also like in Foligno's defense too, like it's not necessarily about like getting revenge in terms of like that
it's more
like
about
fighting it. Yeah, it's
showing
like
the
just
team.
it was just showing the
Yeah.
team, hey, like let's get back. Like this is a hockey game we're playing. Let's get back into it. Because right, like imagine dropping the puck right after Tavares is stretchered off. Like there's no way you can focus at all.
Yeah.
And like so he just kind of did something just to kind of take people's mind off it for just a split second. I think was why he did it. So I guess like I kind of see that, but like it was I don't think it was necessary, and I don't think he was even like going aggressively after Perry because I think everyone kind of agrees that that was not like intentional at all.
Yeah, especially because like Perry's kind of seen not like as a dirty player, but like as a player who's definitely done some questionable things in his career. And I feel like, everyone is still agreeing that it was accidental. Like that's how you know it was accidental. Cause like you see players like a Tom Wilson. Like if Tom Wilson ever hit someone and it
Oh,
actually was accidental, I don't think anyone would believe him. So like
Yeah,
and Corey Perry's kind of the same. So the fact that like everyone still agreed that it was an accidental hit just shows like I kind of agree with you. I think he definitely didn't need to do it, but like I kind of understand the reasoning of trying to get the team back into the sort of hockey like mindset, I guess, because like you said, like to just drop the puck afterwards and play, it would have been so hard to do.
yeah, and Corey Perry could take a fight too. Like he didn't just go after a guy who clearly like was like accidentally hurt someone and then can't stick up for himself as well. Like fighting like Corey Perry, you can see Corey Perry was not really fighting like super hard in that either. He was just kind
no,
of like,
he
yeah,
definitely didn't do any big swings or anything. He was just kind of taking it.
yeah, and he can take it too. So I felt like it was not entirely necessary, but like I get it. I fully get it.
No, for sure. Kind of switching to actually talking about the game one.
Right.
How are you guys feeling about Carey Price? Because, I feel like he's such a polarizing figure, especially as like not Habs fans, but also Canadians, because like he was our goalie for Team Canada for a long time. And, he was seen as like this elite goalie, but I feel like people are maybe starting to like kind of shit on him a little bit as like saying he's not good anymore. And like I'm still don't know where to stand because I definitely don't think he's like a top 5 goalie anymore, but like when he's on his night, he can be really good. And like I'm interested to like how are you feeling when Carey Price, who was in the AHL for like a warm-up game and got lit up by the Marlies, and then all of a sudden he's having a fantastic game in game 1 against the Leafs.
Yeah, I feel like every year we have the conversation is like Carey Price done, and then every year he'll prove that he's not quite done yet. But I definitely think that like he's definitely not as good as he was, but like at any moment he could pull out just a crazy save and like completely rob a game from any team. So definitely like made me a bit nervous, but like after game two, like they kind of at least kind of proved that like there is still some weakness in Carey Price. They can beat him if they try.
Yeah, Carey Price, in my opinion, is still a great goalie, but like he can kind of just turn it on when he wants. Really, like if he wanted to like make sure no one was scoring, he could. And then there's times where it's like everything gets past him. So it's definitely a tough conversation for Price.
And then also like the power play in game 1. I mean I can't say I've watched a lot of Leafs games, but you guys would know better than me, but the transition and how the power play was from game 1 to game 2 is like watching two completely different teams.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
Leafs lately have not had a good power play, but then last night, for the game, they really showed what they can do.
yeah, that was so relieving to see. Like it got to the point where like the Leafs would get a power play, and I just be like, just let them put them in the box, but just play 5-on-5 because it's just too risky. It's too risky. I'd rather they didn't have it, especially after the shorthanded game one.
Yeah,
Which again, like not entirely their fault, but like still, like even in the regular season, they were struggling and getting at one point like scored on more on their power play than actually scoring, and like it blows my mind that you can have such a talented offensive team who just can't figure out the power play to the point where they're not even getting shots and they're getting scored on. Like it was so nice to see them actually pull it off last night.
And what was your thoughts on the officiating last night? Because I know there were a couple of Montreal Canadiens fans on social media. My mom's a Habs fan, and she was kind of talking about how only like they were only calling penalties on Montreal. I mean, it kind of like all the penalties were penalties in my opinion, but like also it in the playoffs you kind of see refs put the whistle away and don't call kind of some borderline stuff, and then they also try to make the calls even, which I disagree with, but like that's kind of what we see in the playoffs, and we didn't see that last night. Although granted, that holding call on Zach Hyman to open the game like
Yeah.
was the softest holding call I've ever seen in my life. But
Yeah.
I mean, what was your thoughts on the officiating?
I mean, obviously, I'm a bit biased because I'm like all Leafs, but I think the game was called pretty fairly because we did get. I think we got 2 penalties that were like really weak penalties, and it was just like, come on, like we barely did anything there. And then they got a bunch of the really like shitty ones.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I'm also a huge Leafs fans, but I'm trying my best to kind of put some perspective on it, especially after like being flattened by the Bruins year after year, complaining about the non-calls that they get. So, trying to think about that too. I also think part of me also was wondering if maybe like the officiate, like they were just kind of like, let's try and call like as much things as we can before things get too ugly. We've already had a huge injury. There's the whole Nazem Kadri like suspension, and like I think someone Tampa Bay just got injured as well. Like I think they're just trying to keep. Sorry.
Weber got fined 5K for cross-checking Simmons last night.
Oh yeah, I saw that this morning. The 5K fines. They're not even a slap on the wrist, but still.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to do something to kind of show like, hey, we can keep this under control. But I think it might have been a little bit tilted towards the Leafs' favor last night. But like I said, with the power play going as bad as it was beforehand, I wasn't too happy about it just until they actually started scoring.
Yeah,
How
no, of
many
course.
power play goals did we get last night? Just one? Just the
I think
one?
got two.
Yeah, I think they
It
were
was
2 for
two.
5. 2 for 5,
Yeah.
if I remember
Okay.
correctly.
Yeah. Which was it was like at one point I think it was in the second maybe it was just power play after power play, like they just the entire
Literally, I remember in the third period or the second period, maybe there was the one that one just ended, and then they got one immediately after it ended. So
yeah
it was
like
4 minutes of 4-on-5.
Yeah,
yeah I
and
think that
I think that's where the Montreal fans were kind of saying maybe it's a bit questionable because you hardly see that in the playoffs. And I mean, I think if you look at the replay of the penalties, both of them were penalties, but it's just a matter of saying in the playoffs certain things aren't called. But I feel like those are the types of penalties where even in the playoffs they should be called. And I think it was weird because we saw like the refs make like call the right penalties, and like fans are just so shocked that penalties get called, and I think they're just used to everything just being allowed to happen that they were surprised that penalties actually got called.
yeah once they officials actually like sort out what isn't a penalty, especially during the playoffs, I think it'll be way better, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
Yeah, no,
Like,
definitely not. Because there's also like the goal, like Montreal challenge for goalie interference,
oh, that
and
was useless.
That was so dumb.
but then Minnesota challenged in the Vegas game, and I don't know if you saw that clip, but
Didn't
you
catch that.
you
I can go
also
watch
look at like what happened, and it looks like, oh, there's no way this is getting called back. Like that's clearly a goal, and they challenge, and it was called goalie interference. So that's
Oh,
another thing where Billy, you were talking about how like the refs don't even know it's a penalty, which is like so true. And like I think the same thing goes for like challenges because I feel like everyone was like, okay, well, that's obviously not goalie interference. And then they took like 10 minutes to review it, and everyone was
oh
like
god.
stressed.
Yeah, it took so long. Like I didn't catch the Vegas one, but the one that the Leafs got last night, like, at least like there was no way that altered whether or not that was going to be a goal or not. And he kind of like I don't even think he even touched him with a stick. If he did, it was such a light tap that like there's no way. Like, and also another thing, like Carey Price didn't react at all. Like he got scored on. He's like, shit, I got scored on. Like he didn't even like go to like when you see a goalie go to complain to the ref, that's when like that's my cue to like something definitely happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's so true. Like normally if the goalie's touched like at all, they're right in the ref's face like as soon as the puck goes in and they're like screaming at them. So that's definitely like a good call for something to like look at. I don't know, it was weird because like Montreal's coach seemed like so convinced that it was goalie interference. And then the funniest thing was they showed the GMs reacting, and Bergevin on Montreal like points to the screen like angry that it's goalie interference, and then Dubas points to the screen and just like shrugs his shoulders and like starts laughing basically, which
Yeah,
that was so funny.
yeah. He looks at that. There's like I think all Leafs fans and probably a few Habs fans too are looking at that. Like there's no way you can call that back. That's insane. That reminds me of like the whole Matthews saga like a couple of years ago, where he kept getting all his goals called back on the softest goaltender interference calls. Like he,
Oh yeah, yeah. And then he had like the goal celebration where he actually like did the
yeah,
hand movement. Yeah.
the hand move. He needs to bring that celebration out more. I'm a huge fan of
So
that.
I just watched the Minnesota goal that got called back, and Fleury kind of did it to himself. He moved into the guy. Like that shouldn't have
Yeah, he
been
was out of
called
the blue
back.
paint. He comes
Yeah,
out of the blue paint to challenge the shot, which you're like allowed to do. But like you said, he kind of like moves into the Minnesota player who's just standing there.
yeah. That should not have been called back at all.
Yeah, I mean that's another thing where it's like the people have been critical of the officiating in literally every playoff series, and I think they're fair to criticize the officiating in every playoff series. Like, um, I don't know which one of you mentioned like the other injuries, but yeah, Hedman, was it Hedman?
Kucherov got
And
fucking.
Kucherov got hacked in the ankles by Duclair, and it didn't look
Wasn't it right
that
in the
bad.
back of the knee or something?
Yeah, yeah. They were skating away from the play, and then before Duclair went to go
Yeah,
change, he just gave
just
Kucherov
out
a
of nowhere,
hack,
he just yeah.
and then just injured. Which, like, once again, I'm not celebrating injuries. I just think like the fact that Tampa Bay's $17 million over the salary cap in the playoffs, and like 11 of those 17 million is Nikita Kucherov. Like,
And what are you
you
guys'
know,
thoughts on
I
that
mean,
strategy?
like low key, the Leafs are doing it too. I like they're like only 2 million over. Like the whole Riley Nash thing, which I don't even think was he a healthy scratching game too.
Yeah, he was. They played
Okay,
him
yeah.
game one, and he didn't do much. And then they put, I think, Pierre Engvall in for him.
Which
And
like apparently that line analytically, I was looking at like the advanced analytics on like Money Puck, and apparently that line was money last night.
yeah, I think it was Engvall, Mikheyev, Kerfoot, I believe.
Yeah, they got
Um,
him.
they were unreal. They were flying all night. It was crazy.
Yeah, so like the Leafs are technically, I think like $1 or $2 million over the cap. I might be very wrong, but like I'm pretty sure they're like either right up against it or just over for the playoffs. So like Tampa's not the only team that's doing it, and like also to be perfectly fair, like as a Penguins fan, the Penguins did it in 2013 with the Iginla trade. Remember when Jerome
Oh,
Iginla was
right.
like
Yeah,
supposed to be
yeah,
the
yeah.
savior and then just didn't do fucking anything for us? Um, but yeah, we were technically a little bit over the salary cap too. But I just think that no one's done it to the level that Tampa's done it, where they're just like it was blatantly obvious what they were doing when they
Yeah,
were like,
comes out in game one, scores, looking fine. They're like, so he was injured all year, really.
yeah, like it was so obvious. They're like, yeah, he has an injury that will like he has the injury that will finish rehabbing the day before the playoffs start, just casually out of nowhere. Like there was still a month left in the season and he was practicing full contact, but they were like, no, he's still injured for wait, when do the playoffs start? A month from now? Oh, he's still injured for another month, guys. Like it's very serious injury. Like
They
it
have
was
a date
just
mark.
yeah, it's just so obvious, and it's like no one's been this much over the cap. Where I feel like like, and I'm not angry at Tampa because like everybody's allowed to do it. I'm angry at the league for having like just such a blatant loophole that every team can exploit.
That's my like it might be an unpopular opinion, but like I'm kind of for it. Like, if they're gonna allow it, then like why not? Why wouldn't you? You're trying to win, and you're not breaking any rules doing it. Like, if that's not on Tampa, that's not on at all. Like, that's a league issue if it even is an issue. If not, then it's got to just be part of like the GM's like design of the team. Like, it's a gamble too. I mean, you also like it's a risk too because Kucherov just missed an entire year. Like, I bet you if he was actually feeling good, he was probably not too happy about just sitting on the sidelines and not actually playing games. But so you can look at it from a few angles, but I think that as long as it's not actually breaking a rule, I mean, why not?
Do you think it's unfair to Florida though?
Well, I mean, are we
'Cause they're
are we switching into Tampa, Florida here?
We might as well switch into Tampa, Florida.
I think that was a great transition there.
So yeah, I think that I said this like about a little bit before, like the playoff started, just to like friends and just kind of predictions that I thought that like Florida's been great, like they've been doing great. They finally in the playoffs and have like a good team, and then they have to play the Tampa Bay Lightning right away, even like without Kucherov. I'm like, I don't care if they're a higher seed, if they've been doing better. There's not a chance they're winning the series. There's no way. Florida,
No,
like
it's
Tampa Bay has
already
just got
3-1 for
so
Tampa.
much experience in the playoffs, and Florida is just finally here. Like,
Yeah.
I think I know it's 3-1 now, so looking like Tampa should be going through. But I think even before that, I was like, I think Tampa's going. I think Tampa's doing another deep push this year, for sure.
Yeah. It's kind of tough for a new playoff team to face the winners of last year. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And the new hitters are last year who like are still good. Like, they didn't just
yeah,
kind of go
still a
all
good
out
team.
when like they've been good for years. They didn't just have a fluke year and then like win it and then just kind of did nothing. Cough cough Dallas. But
Yeah, we No, but yeah, I totally agree with you. I was very heavy on Tampa doing well. Like in last week's episode where we did predictions, like I picked Tampa to go all the way to the finals. Like I just agree with you. I think it's so funny how Florida has like the best year in franchise history, and they're like, congratulations, your award is playing Tampa in the first round. Like, and
Yeah.
also like they like which goal like they need to commit to a goalie. Like they played Bobrovsky, but then they were like, psych, no, we're gonna play Drieger, and then they're like, psych, no, actually we're gonna play Bobrovsky, and then they pulled him for Drieger. And like I don't understand their goaltending decision in the playoffs. And then also I didn't even realize this, but like Spencer Knight, who was the U.S. World Junior goalie for like the last 3 years, like he's one of the best goalie prospects. So he was drafted in the first round by Florida. I didn't realize though it was the draft 11 days after they signed Bobrovsky to that 10-year deal, which is like, I'm not a GM and I'm not going to tell you how to like draft for your team. But if you sign a goalie to a 10-year contract, maybe don't draft a goalie in the first round 11 days later. Like that's just me.
yeah, like imagine being Bobrovsky too, and you just see that instant. Like, you got this huge deal, and they're like, "But we're also gonna get a backup too." It's like, what is this team doing? Like, they're
Yeah,
pulling
like
like
the
yeah,
the
like pulling
ten
like
ten million dollar backup goalie memes were just so funny all year.
yeah, like it's. I mean, like, it's one thing, like, you always like just get like, I mean, if Bobrovsky goes down like early or like ends the season like or something, like you want that insurance, but like I don't know again, I'm not a GM either, so I don't really know, but that didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, we've seen some weird goaltending stuff like throughout a lot of different series. Like, I mean, I guess Toronto was kind of obvious given Freddie's injury and how well Jack Campbell was playing. Like, it was obvious that Jack Campbell would be the starter. I just think it's weird in the sense of if you had told Leaf fans like 5, 6 months ago that Jack Campbell would be starting in game one, you'd be like freaking out about like
Yeah, a
what
little
happened to
bit.
Freddie.
Oh yeah, for sure. But he's been just crazy.
He's
Like,
also
no
and
part of me doesn't think that he deserves this.
Freddie has also been kind of shit in the bed. Like he let in like 3 goals and 6 shots in the AHL. Like
I'm
he's
a
not been
huge
doing
believer
good
that
for
AHL numbers don't really translate.
him.
Like,
I guess
because
that's true, but like
like
he's
yeah.
been slacking since he came back.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know too much about the injury really. Like they kind of were low key about it when it first.
Yeah,
Like they just kept saying
I don't
something's
even
bugging
know
him.
what happened. Yeah.
I don't really know what's happened. He was off at the start of the season. Like he was just kind of not playing as strong as like we'd seen him in the past. I don't know if that like led to an injury or if that was because of an injury or whatever. Because I mean, there was a long break before before the season started, right? So I don't really know how that happened or what went down there. But yeah, and then the more he like played, it was like more clear that like he's not the Freddie Anderson of previous years, right now at least. And thank God that Jack Campbell has stepped in and kind of taken the starting goaltender position and just done so well with him and setting a record and like uh, playing well so far this playoffs. I think he's saying that we somehow got back to the Leafs. I just realized, but
Yeah, I was just about to say it's great we went back to the Leafs.
Yeah, it's
What
just
about
they
Carolina
always come
Nashville?
back. Sorry, what did you say there, Kyle?
About Carolina and Nashville. What do
Oh,
we think about?
Carolina. I mean, to be fair to Nashville, they did score in that double overtime game, which was huge for them because they really needed that. And speaking of goalies, I like Rene is finally like I don't know if he's gonna retire this year or if he's gonna try to sign somewhere else, but he's finally like left Nashville as a like starting goalie and given it to UC Saros because I feel like people were talking about UC Saros as like the next guy for Nashville for like the last 3 years. And then Rene was just like, nah, psych, I have like one more year left. Oh, I have one more year left. And Saros has finally stepped in and like he was great in games. Like he made like 50 saves in game three again in that double overtime game. And a really clutch goal for Matt Duchene. But like realistically, Carolina are easily winning this. Like they've been all
Oh
over
yeah,
them.
for sure.
yeah, I think so.
I
And also, you can't not cheer for Carolina right now. Like their games are so fun to watch. Like their team is so fun to support. Like the first ever playoff like storm surge or whatever. Like
yeah,
you
that was pretty
can't.
sick.
Yeah, you can't not just go for just go
They
cheer for
got
them
the
right
full
now.
building too, like rocking in the
Oh
game.
yeah. Oh,
That's the
It's
best thing
so
to see.
great
Like,
that they can have
yeah,
fans again.
it
oh,
sucks.
I'm so jealous watching American games right now.
Oh, I know.
So
It's
Yeah,
jealous.
you
watching
flip to
Canadian
watch
games is
Toronto.
depressing.
Yeah, you flip to watch the Canadian games, and it just doesn't feel the same because you just see those like tarps in the
Yeah.
stands.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it goes to Game 6, supposedly Canadians are gonna have some fans,
Yeah, I
which
think
will
they
be
said 15,
in-
1500, 2500 in
yeah,
Montreal.
interesting to see. Hopefully,
Yeah.
Toronto can get that if
Always
they
want to
go
do a
far
road
enough.
trip to Montreal.
What do you think those tickets are going for?
Probably so fucking much.
Oh, I can only
Yeah.
imagine. Like,
Montreal, Toronto, first game you can see in over a year, and it's the playoffs Game 6. Like, oh my God.
Against Toronto too.
Yeah, like
Leafs and Habs tickets all like normally are impossible to get. Like
yeah,
when there's 18,000 available for like a regular season game against Arizona. So
like oh man, that's gonna be something else. But man, hopefully, if there's a deep rush, a deep push, something might open up in Toronto, and at least just see fans in the building would
yeah.
be pretty cool.
Yeah, I
I
mean, I'm
wonder
here
what
checking like border restrictions and being like, so Pittsburgh's games are at 50% capacity. If I drive over the border, what kind of quarantine situation are we like? It's to that point where I'm like, do I just casually decide to like go down to Pittsburgh for a week to watch some hockey?
I wonder what's gonna happen come round 3 for North Division.
I don't know actually. I haven't seen what their plan is.
Yeah, that's a big question. I don't think they have. I think they're waiting because who knows what like the COVID situation in at least in Ontario looks like. Like if we assume Toronto gets out of the first two rounds and they're the ones in round three, like we have this like three-phase system now apparently. Like who knows what phase will actually be in then. So like I feel like they're trying to
Yeah,
wait to buy themselves as much time as possible. But like yeah, it would be terrible if it was like Toronto versus Carolina and Carolina literally has like a full 18,000 seat stadium and then it goes to Toronto and there's no
Like
fans.
nobody.
yeah. Like, and I mean, I think no matter which team makes it out of the North, it's a different province, right?
Yeah,
So it's
it's
just completely different based on who comes out.
Right? Yeah, it's four different provinces. Yeah.
Yeah, they can't really plan for that, I guess.
Yeah, I know it'll definitely be interesting to see. And speaking of the other provinces, and hot goalies. Connor Hellebuck is just
yeah.
going god
Insane.
mode.
Oh, I still think the Oilers are gonna take this. I think it's gonna be exciting, and I think it's gonna go to 7. And I'm super like stoked for Winnipeg's like crazy performance so far. But like all they need is just McDavid and or Draisaitl to just turn it on, and they're done. They're flying. What do you guys think of that?
If someone had told me a few weeks ago that Winnipeg would be leading the series right now, I would have laughed right in their face. But after watching it, I'm kind of leaning more towards Winnipeg winning this.
I mean, definitely picking the team that's up 2-0 in the series is a good call.
Yeah.
But no, like I
But
don't
they've
know.
been even playing great like past
Yeah,
2 games.
I can see both of like I can see what both of you are saying. Like even last week, like I picked Edmonton, but like Jacob said he was really feeling Winnipeg to upset, and I was like, I can definitely see it. Like I can see why you would be so huge on them. And I mean, I think if we're sitting here after 2 games saying McDavid and Draisaitl have 0 points and Hellebuck's only allowed 1 goal, like that's super impressive. But also like how sustainable is that? Can they
Yeah,
win 2 more games like that? But
yeah.
then,
Sorry.
Winnipeg has a good offense, right? Like they can definitely score a couple of goals, but then also like how many games are you going to keep McDavid quiet? Like eventually he's
Oh
going to
yeah.
break out.
I think it'll just take like one. It could even take one shift where he just feels himself and gets a gross goal, and it's done once it's turned on. Like he can be devastating.
Not to go back to Leafs, but if it was Leafs versus Winnipeg, do you think Leafs would be able to take that easily?
Yeah. I think actually if you're a Leafs fan, you'd rather face Winnipeg. No, you'd rather face
The
Winnipeg
Oilers,
than Edmonton because
really?
yeah, because I think that Edmonton if Edmonton play like I feel like if Edmonton tries to open the game up and play like a trading scoring chances game, because the Leafs have such a high powered offense, they might be like suckered into playing that type of style. And I know the Leafs are extremely talented, but you don't really want to open up a high scoring game with Connor McDavid. Like you have to beat the Oilers the way the Jets are beating them by like basically committing holding penalties against Connor McDavid every time he touches the
Yeah.
ice and keeping him quiet. And I think that the Leafs would have a harder time. Like it would like Sheldon Keefe would have to like basically um build that system with Toronto. Now, I think Toronto wins no matter who they play. Like Toronto's definitely the favorite and should be coming out of the North Division no problem. I just think that they would have an easier job against Winnipeg because Winnipeg would just try to play the shutdown, like try to limit you type of style, and I think Toronto would be able to handle that better.
All right, understandable.
I mean,
Yeah,
you're
I
a
can.
Leafs fan, so like, what do you guys think?
yeah, I'm
Uh,
definitely scared. I think I speak for
I'm
all.
scared for all games, even Montreal, to be honest. Just because the Leafs are fucking. We're the Leafs. It's
Yeah,
hard to cheer for Leafs in the playoffs. It's
if there's one thing the Leafs could do, it's have like the clear favorites and then like allow a fourth liner you've never heard of to get a hat trick. Like, but yeah, like I do definitely agree with what you were saying though, Labi, with the way that the way that Edmonton functions. It's like kind of similar to the Leafs, except like if you let McDavid go even for a second, like he's gone, and I don't know if the Leafs can contain him as well as maybe a team like Winnipeg could.
I
Yeah,
think during the season though, we played against Oilers a lot better than we played against Winnipeg. I know during the last season game we played against Winnipeg, we didn't have Austin Matthews, but we lost 4-1 to them.
Yeah, that game I could like I'll take with a grain of salt just because like I don't
I
know
guess
how much.
we didn't put out our full
I think it was
squad.
Marner didn't play that game.
Was it Marner?
I
It
think he
might have
just
been
didn't
Marner.
dress at all. He
Yeah.
just took a
I
day, and like yeah, it was less than meaningless that game. So
Yeah, because they really didn't care. We had already clinched, so it didn't matter.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm super excited for either. We got to beat Montreal first. We'll see how that goes, but it's
All
gonna
right.
be yeah, it's gonna be fun to watch no matter what.
What other series are you guys interested in right now? I know Labi's interested in Pens.
I was gonna say, I
Oh
can't
yeah.
believe it's been this long and I haven't talked with the Penguins, which I think talks about
All
how
right.
worried I am and like,
It's
oh,
tied right now. It
Let's
could
hear it.
go
What are
either
what are your
way.
thoughts on the Penguins' performance right now? Tied 2-2.
I
How
mean,
are you
it's
feeling?
just it's tough because on one hand, I'm feeling really good about the way we've played minus game 4. On the other
You're
hand, like I it's really hard saying this to like Leafs fans, like because you guys are gonna laugh at me because of all the success that Pittsburgh has had. But like if you look at since we've won the back-to-back cups, we've not done well in the playoffs. Like we were swept in 2019 by the Islanders and then we lost to Montreal 3-1. And so since that, that's if I'm trying to do the quick math in my head, that's a record of 3-9 in our last 12 playoff games. So like
wow.
if you go on recent history, like that's just always in the back of my mind of like this team is just not washed, but like this team just isn't the elite cup contenders that they used to be. But then I look at this roster and this year's team is so much better than the last 2 years teams. Like this year's team should be challenging to get out of this East Division. They should be challenging for the cup. I think Colorado's definitely better than us. Tampa's definitely better than us. And then there are a lot of teams that like are pretty toss up. Like I think like Carolina are probably just slightly better than us, but like I would expect us to challenge them in a series. And so for me to be sitting here tied 2-2 with the Islanders, like I have to be disappointed. Like game 1 we dominated, but Jari just decided to I don't even like that was just terrible
Oh,
goaltending.
and then they
Your
let
best
the
goaltender right now is Crosby.
Yeah, oh my god. That's in 2 games he made
Crosby's
goal saving
Crosby's
plays.
still Crosby somehow.
And yeah, I mean that's the thing. People are getting on his case cuz in 4 games he has 1 goal, no assists, which like obviously I want him to do better than that. But then I also point out like yes, but he's also like directly responsible for saving 2 goals. So in my mind that's like 3 goals, like 1 goal scored, 2 goals saved. Because like a goal saved is as good as a goal
Yeah.
scored. But like still offensively, our first line, like Brian Russ and Jake Gensel have been invisible. And when our best line is Aston Reese, Tanev, Bluger, which is like that's our energy line. Like that's one of our advantages is like our depth is supposed to be better than other teams' depth, which is a huge advantage. But like the reason why that's supposed to be so good is like Crosby and Malkin are supposed to dominate. And then we also have Jeff Carter and Teddy Bluger's line. So like we're already supposed to be on top of you. And then that's just supposed to like bury you even more. The fact that our third and fourth line are carrying the play for us and generating the chances for us is a problem. I think the scary thing for the rest of the league is we're tied 2-2 in the first round, being carried by our third and fourth line. If our top 2 lines figure it out, that's a problem for everyone else. It's just a matter of those top 2 lines need to figure it out. Malkin last night lost his shit and like took 3 penalties in the game and just looked invisible.
I didn't even watch the game from last night because I was too into the Leafs game.
Yeah, you didn't miss anything. I mean, the game was at 3, so it was before Leafs game, but you
Yeah,
didn't
Oh,
miss
I
anything.
actually I didn't. Yeah, I missed it too because I also didn't know it was starting that early. But
You didn't miss anything. I wish I didn't watch it.
yeah,
And I
but
mean,
also
sorry, go
so
ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna say like another thing like as much as like the Penguins need to like step up and stuff, like what are your thoughts on like just the Islanders play style? Because I for one hate it. I find it's the most boring thing I've ever seen is watching the Islanders play any kind of game. The way that they
Oh,
just
yeah.
suffocate you and just try and score on just their whatever minimal chance they get and just give you nothing to do and you just watch just nothing hockey for nonstop.
it's literally just passing for 60 minutes.
Yeah, like I just don't want like as if Pittsburgh turns it on, becomes a scary team for the rest of the league. I almost just invite that just because I don't really want the Islanders to move on to keep watching them.
Yeah, I
Speaking of
mean,
moving on in that thing, what do you think about Boston and Capitals?
They're
I think
killing each other, and I love it.
it's so exciting. It's so much. It's the opposite of the Islanders. I'm loving every second of it.
I'm actually rooting for Capitals to bring it back and win, just because I want to see Pens and Capitals.
Yeah,
again.
how fun would
I-
Pens Caps be?
I need that too.
I don't think it'll happen.
I mean, I'm scared about the Islanders, like, so I'm not going to sit here and talking like we're in the second round already. But like, I would much rather play the Capitals than the Bruins. I think we lose to the Bruins in a playoff series.
Yeah, I think even if, say, Carolina comes out or Tampa Bay comes out of the other division, Boston could even take them, and then it could be Boston in the final.
Which you don't want if you're a Leafs fan.
You don't want if you're
Boston Toronto Leafs final is just kind of stress I don't need in my life.
And then on the other hand, too, I was saying as a joke, but like kind of true. I kind of don't want the Leafs to win the cup this year, just because I can imagine the
so many
chaos that would
people-
create with COVID.
Oh my god, yeah. If the Leafs have a deep run, they need to Ontario needs to step up their COVID game real quick to catch up.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Because even if the Leafs win the cup, I'm going out. Like, I'm not gonna.
I'm not a Leafs fan, and I would go out just to be a part of that celebration.
Like that's the celebration. Like that's one of like the top celebrations of like any like major sports like organization that you would ever see.
Genuinely a once in a lifetime celebration.
Yeah. And like, oh man, if the COVID case, it's gonna be dangerous if COVID isn't under wraps by then.
It's like you
If
remember
this
the
happened.
Raptors. Like you remember the Raptors.
I remember the Raptors.
Oh,
I feel like
I
it'd be
remember
even
the
crazier
Raps.
for the Leafs.
Like it would be that on steroids.
Oh my god, yeah, the
Yeah,
Raptors was
I would
like
definitely.
dangerous enough, and there wasn't a pandemic going on. Like,
That's probably what started the pandemic. Jeez.
But yeah, no. Talking about the Bruins and the Caps series, I'm with you. I want the Caps to win tonight, not just because I'd
I
rather
just want
play the Caps.
I want to watch more games. I want to see this
I
go to
want to watch
7.
more games, and
I
also
feel like seventh game of this series would be insane.
and
God.
Penguins Islanders are tied 2-2, so that series is at least going 6. It might go 7. I don't want the Bruins being well rested, finished in 5, waiting for whoever comes out, because like
That's true. That's
very
dangerous.
true. That's dangerous.
Yeah.
Dangerous for the Pens for sure.
And then the funny thing about that is if I'm the Colorado Avalanche, I might lose intentionally to not that like they're going to do this, but I might lose intentionally tonight because Kadri has 8 games to serve. So if you burn 2 of those games by
that's a good
intentionally
idea.
Oh my
losing a couple to
God.
St. Louis.
What the
That's a great
riskiest
idea.
big brains I've ever heard. in my
Yeah,
life.
Labi's really just big braining all of these right now.
Oh
Because
man.
then you get Kadri back potentially for a game 6 or 7 against Vegas.
How long do you get Kadri back before he gets suspended again, though?
Also very true.
With the dirty hits he's been laying, it's kind of inevitable.
Yeah,
He'll
you get Kadri
suspended
back so you can take out Mark Stone in game 7 so you can win it. Have you guys been watching the Vegas series at all?
I have seen one of the games, but it was the Wild one.
Oh, the 1-0 overtime.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't been missing these games, to be honest.
It was a pretty boring game with the 0-0 all game, and I was kind of like, damn.
Yeah, those goalies were standing on top of their head, which is why I've kind of been hate watching it because Marc
yeah,
Andre Fleury.
I heard it was fun
Oh,
to watch in the sense that it's just like goalies just going insane, just going god
crazy. Yeah.
Marc Andre Fleury's been insane.
Yeah.
These playoffs.
He has.
It's amazing what happens when you take the sword out of your back.
Well, what do you think would happen if it ended up being Winnipeg versus Vegas with 2 goalies standing on their heads like that?
Hey, you mean if
crazy.
Hellebuck keeps going for the?
Yeah.
Oh,
If he
Ratings
just-
would be terrible, but like,
yeah.
and we're here for the 7th overtime. Connor Hellebuck has 140 saves. Marc Andre Fleury has 115. Like,
That'd be crazy. I'd
Allowed
watch
all teams to just shoot on them, like McDavid's still playing somehow, just to.
that.
Tampa Bay finds a way to like get Kucherov on like a loan deal to Vegas for
Yeah.
some
They're
reason.
just trying to crack these goalies. Oh my god.
What about the St. Louis, Colorado? Do we think St. Louis will, even if
I think
Colorado doesn't do the big brain, do you think they'll get a win?
I think this might be a sweep. I think this might be the first sweep in this playoffs.
I'm expecting a sweep tonight.
Oh, same.
Yeah.
I haven't watched a lot of this series, but like the 5 minute stretches here and there that I've watched, Colorado don't lose the puck. Like it's always on Colorado's stick.
Yeah,
Like
it's a
I feel like
house league game for them. They
I
just
feel like this has kind of been an unfair series since the beginning. Like it's
yeah, no.
like one of Colorado's best teams in a few years, and versus St. Louis, who has just not been performing very well.
yeah, Colorado's
Yeah.
playoffs don't start until the second round.
Yeah, exactly. I doubt Colorado fans are even watching these games at this point. They're just getting ready.
No, and then speaking of goalies, like Binnington has just fallen from such a
Literally,
high
yeah.
level.
Season.
I-
Like, what is going on in his head?
I had Binnington in our fantasy thing, and I ended up trading him because I was like, this guy's not doing me anything right now.
Yeah, I don't know. The St. Louis Blues are just there. I mean, they won it, so like, who can complain? Who can judge? But since then, they've just been on the decline. And I don't know what to do if I'm a Blues fan.
Which was weird because like I mean we see it all the time. You kind of have these teams that make the finals and that was like their 1 year versus
Mhm.
like the teams that make the finals and it's like a dynasty or like you can tell they're going to be back.
Mhm.
I think that like with Dallas it was kind of a little more obvious. I don't think anyone expected them to miss the playoffs this year, but like I don't think anyone was considering Dallas to be making a deep run this year. Like it was very
Yeah,
clear that their chance was last year. Um
yeah.
Same with like San Jose. Like I know San Jose were good for so long, but they just kept choking that when they made the finals that 1 year against Pittsburgh, everyone was like, this is their chance because they're not going to get another one after this. But
Yeah.
St. Louis, I feel like everyone thought that that was the start of something. They had a young goalie in Bennington, like they had their star players, and then like Petrangelo is not even there anymore.
I think that was a big one though. Petrangelo, like, I think that like, I don't know. I haven't really been following the Blues a crazy amount these past few years, so I don't really know what's been going on. But like, to me, the second that they didn't make it to the cup final, like the second for the like after winning it, to me, it's just kind of like it was a sign that maybe they're not going to do it again.
Yeah, I forgot they had Torrey Krug. Like I was watching like 5 minutes of the game, and like Krug had it for St. Louis. I'm like, oh yeah, he signed. Like he can't be doing well considering I haven't like heard his name once all season. But
I feel watching the Pen sometimes. I'm like, oh, and CC passes to Kapanen, and I'm like, wait, what team is this?
it's
Is this
CC
the
out of
Leafs?
nowhere.
That bothers me as a Leafs fan. That bothers me
It's
so
so
much.
good.
How? How do we get our
I feel
version
like
of Cody and
that
then
is the Leafs like thing. We trade players and then they just go crazy the next year every
yeah.
time.
That is very true. I mean, there are so many examples off the top of my head, which I think like just speaks to how that's just a pattern. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess the Penguins kind of have that too. Like I mean, maybe it's the like on offense, it's the advantage of playing with Sidney Crosby, like where they just you haven't heard of these wingers and then they show up and score like 30 goals in a season somehow, and you're like, oh, it's because they play with Crosby. That makes sense. But like for whatever reason, all these defensemen, like Justin Schultz, we picked up for a sixth rounder, won 2 Stanley Cups with. Then he went to Washington, and did you see his fuck up behind the net for that like overtime goal?
Oh my
Yes.
god,
Did
yeah,
you see
I
how
saw that.
fucking
That was
mad Ovi was?
I'd be so mad. If I was a Caps fan, like there would be a hole in the wall. Oh my god. I can't imagine.
That was
That's so upsetting to see. After such a good game. Like
yeah.
oh
That was crazy.
Now, I
yeah,
don't want to
you
bring
hate
this up, but
Oh god.
if that was Sidney Crosby screaming at his team after an overtime game, like is it just me or would people be like, "Oh, what a whiner, like bad captain," but Ovi does it and everyone's like, "Oh, like he's
I feel like
Russian, angry, LOL."
I
I
think
feel
it's
like
more
Ovi
it's more
and
Ovi's character.
yeah, it's more like Sid and Ovi are just such different people. It's like Ovi just is known kind of to be like an animal, and then Sid is kind of like a good guy. You know
I
what I
don't know.
mean?
I feel like at the same time though, anyone yelling like that in a situation like that, I would understand. Like I
Do you
wouldn't,
think?
depending on how they went about it, but like I understand the emotion in watching that happen in overtime against the Bruins, no less. Like
Yeah, no, that
Yeah,
was a brutal
you don't want
turnover.
the Bruins to get a goal like that to win in overtime. That's upsetting.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess Bruins are kind of like that team that everyone just hates. So
Loves to hate.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone other than Bruins fans who cheer for Bruins in a playoff series.
yeah,
I
anyone outside of Boston hate the Bruins.
I
They
think
love
even
it. That's their
Boston
identity
hates
though. Like they
them.
love to be that team. They
Well, yeah,
love to
and it's
be
across
that.
every sport too, because like same with the Patriots, pretty
Oh
much
yeah,
same
like
with the Red Sox.
Yeah,
no,
they
it'd be
just
great.
like
I wish
they just
I
like to
I
be
mean,
hated.
as good as they've been, like it'd be fun to cheer for a team like that, but I don't, so I hate them.
No, for sure. I mean, they literally win a championship almost like Boston. The city of Boston has won so many championships since
Oh
we were
god.
born.
Oh
Yeah, I
my.
think as a
And
Leafs
Pittsburgh
fan,
too.
Just the Penguins. I guess the Steelers have won a Super Bowl, I think, since we were
Yeah.
born.
Toronto
No,
can't do anything on
hey,
any
hey,
account.
TFC and the Raptors.
Oh well, yeah, Raptors, I guess. But
That's that
that
was
one year because we had Kawhi, but
yeah.
Like,
That
yeah,
was
I mean, people outside of Toronto don't realize how important that championship was for the city.
oh, it was.
oh
It was
god,
great.
yeah. We
We
needed
need
something. We haven't had in our lifetime. We had almost nothing. Like there's TFC, of course, but like we've had almost nothing to cheer.
I
We,
mean,
the
I
total,
mean, I'm a TFC fan, but like I'm aware that that did not like really impact the city because it's
yeah.
soccer and it's not like one of the big leagues, and so yeah.
Like that, like they had like that one Jays run with like the
I
Bautista bat
remember.
flip and stuff. I remember
Yep,
that, and like
that
we
was
didn't even make it to the
amazing.
We didn't make it to the finals, and that was like the most
No.
exciting thing in my lifetime. Until that point.
Yeah,
I mean, to be
that
fair,
was a great
Toronto have
series
had
to watch.
some like Toronto had the bat flip, and then like we had the Kawhi Leonard shot, which is like some pretty iconic like individual moments to have.
Yeah, when we win in style.
Yeah.
We
Hey,
get very
the Leafs
very
moment's
cocky
coming.
in our wins, and then we get shut down.
The Leafs moment's coming. We're gonna get some
It's really-
kind of insane Austin Matthews like moment.
No, you know the Leafs are gonna win it, and they're gonna have the like dumbest thing from like just some fourth liner. Like,
You guys think that the Leafs, like Toronto, will party just if Leafs get out of first round?
Yes.
oh, absolutely. There's
Yes.
gonna be
It's gonna be like
there's gonna be so many. The cases are gonna spike the day after if they win a round. COVID cases in Toronto are gonna go
It's
up.
crazy that we're gonna have such a huge party just for winning one round.
Oh my god, I've never been able to
How many
celebrate one
years?
round. I think it's
How many years would
2004.
it have been?
Yeah, 2004 was the last time they won a playoff
Yeah,
series.
I was 4 years old last night. I wasn't partying too hard back then.
No, I was definitely not watching the Leafs.
Yeah, I mean, like that's why we talk about this all the time because like we do get a lot of listeners who aren't from Toronto, and it's impossible to explain like the Toronto Maple Leafs and their performance directly impacts the mood of the city of Toronto. Like if the Leafs are winning, the city is happy. If the Leafs are losing, the city is miserable. And it's like it's so crazy how true that actually is, especially come playoff time.
Yeah.
These are just such creative ways to make us miserable.
Like as a Penguins fan, like game 7 versus Boston, like I have to be quiet for the next week. Like I can't celebrate too hard or else I'm gonna be like in danger.
Even last night, I was watching the Leafs game, and I was just like, a 4-1 lead in the fourth period or the third period. We're definitely gonna win this one, right? Like,
Yeah,
shit.
I was at the David Ayres game. I was there in the crowd, and I'm just like, this is a new form of embarrassment. Like I've never experienced losing like this before, like cheering for a team that just does
Insert
this.
Zamboni driver Steve Dangle clip.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, no.
Like like you can't script that. You can't script something.
No.
That was also, keep in mind, the last game before the trade deadline last year.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That was Kyle Dubas was like, okay, let's build this team for the playoffs, and then that happened, and he literally, there's reports that he was going to sign trade for Zach Bogosian, and because of that game, he didn't, and Zach Bogosian got traded to the Lightning and won a cup, and then now he's on the league.
So Zach Bogosian owes David Ayres like
He
the
does.
biggest.
He owes David Ayres. He owes David Ayres like a dinner out. Oh my god.
Wow, that's actually crazy. I did not know that.
I think that's I've heard I saw a tweet somewhere about that. I'm not sure how reputable it is, but
Hey, I'm sure it's
It's a
true.
good story
Definitely
if it
gotta
was
believe
true.
It's
that.
fun to believe it's true.
It's fun to believe it. Yeah.
I'm sitting here thinking, if is there a series that we've not
Well, yeah,
covered yet, or at least like referenced? And I'm pretty sure we've hit every single one.
I'm
I
just
think we
about.
have. Yeah.
Have we covered Leafs yet? Not sure.
Actually, I don't know. Maybe have
Actually,
we
yeah,
covered
we
these?
might have to talk about the Leafs a bit. For just overall, I think we have a pretty good playoff going on right now with all the
It's
teams
been
that are in
fun.
here.
Yeah, it's been
It's
super fun. I
fun.
mean, the
It's been fun to
overtimes, the
watch.
close games. Like I'm enjoying this.
There's been an insane amount of overtime. It's crazy.
Who you got like favorites to win at this point in time?
Well, I'll let you go first. I'll think.
For me, like you gotta think it's Colorado's year. Like
Really.
they've been scary dangerous. And like they've just been so like they've had a good team for years and like they kind of remind me of Tampa in the way that like they're just gonna keep going at it until they eventually get it.
Yeah,
I don't know about you
I
guys.
see that. Like, I see Colorado as like the Tampa Bay team, like where you said they're always going to be a contender every year. It's just a matter of like, will they get it done each year?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, will they choke the same way that Tampa found ways to choke? I don't know. Because like, not to go off topic, but if you go back and look at like Tampa Bay through their like run with this team, I don't know how they didn't make like at least another final. Like I even go back to 2016, which was like the first year I think where Tampa were like really taking that step, because that was the year that Ben Bishop was still their goalie and he got hurt in the round. Was it Ben? Yeah, Ben Bishop. I might just have like completely got that wrong, but I'm pretty sure he was their goalie. I'm not crazy. I might be crazy,
No,
but he got
Bishop.
hurt. I'm literally gonna
And
have to Google his name to make sure that like I'm like right about this.
I'm gonna pull this up.
Because that's when Vasilevsky like first came in when he was like super young and no one had really heard of him too much. And he came in and was like unbelievable. Yeah,
Yeah,
Ben Bishop was on
Ben
the
Bishop
Tampa. Yes,
2016, yeah, I've
yes,
seen
yes,
that.
yes. 2016, Ben Bishop was their like star goalie, and he got hurt in the conference finals against Pittsburgh. And Vasilevsky came in, and I'm sitting here like, oh, easy dub. We have this like backup goalie coming in, and Vasilevsky was like, nah, I'm just gonna become elite.
I am a
And
wall.
yeah, they were up 3-2 in that series against Pittsburgh, and then Pittsburgh won game 6, won game 7, and then went on to win the cup. And I'm just like, we got so lucky. Tampa really like should have won that series. And that was like way back in 2016.
Didn't that happen to the Capitals? Weren't the Capitals down in like 3 games to 2? Um, and when they won the cup against Tampa and then won the last two, like just
Yep.
snuck it in.
I was going to say, I don't know what happened to Tampa in 2017, but 2018, they were 3-2 up against the Capitals, blew that series. Capitals went on to win the Stanley Cup. And then obviously 2019, you have the sweep against, no, was it
Oh yeah,
2019?
no, it was 20. It was 20. It was 2019. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was.
Then you have the Columbus incident.
That made me as a Leafs fan be like, oh, other teams can get embarrassed too. That's cool.
And then they finally got it done in 2020 and now look like they might do it again. But like, so to your point with Colorado, it's like I can't see Colorado doing that. Like I can't see Colorado being up 3-2 in a series and then just choking it away.
Yeah, they seem too confident right now, at least. So
Definitely.
that's my pick, but I'm super. I don't know.
I
It's close. I think it's a toss up.
I really want to say the Leafs, but I know it's not going to happen.
Go ahead
So,
and say the Leafs. I said the Penguins last week. I mean,
but yeah, I want to say the Leafs, but I'm thinking I don't know. I have a weird feeling it's going to be Carolina for whatever reason. I have no idea. I think they're just on such a rush right now. They
Not a
might
bad
come
pick.
through.
no, I think that's solid. Like I can't say I've watched a lot of the Carolina's games, so like I didn't really understand why everyone was like so high on. Like I knew their record was great, but like I had just hadn't watched them play. From what I've seen in the playoffs, they've looked really good.
Yeah, and if they do make it to the Final Four, they'll have to knock out Tampa to do so. I mean, assuming Tampa does finish the series against Florida, and like I feel like the kind of the momentum that you get from that is like we just
I feel like if they came out on top of Tampa, they would be able to just do whatever.
Yeah,
Just off of the excitement of that, they would.
That's so true. I
they
didn't
would
even
go.
consider that. Yeah.
like the momentum is crazy. Like, I mean, it's been for like the Leafs too. Like I don't know if the momentum is as insane if the Leafs make it out of the North. You know what I mean? Like they are the favorites. They're like obviously the Oilers with McDavid are scary, but like Winnipeg's might upset them. But like there's no real like huge hurdle that they'll have to
I think
overcome. Like there's no Boston that they'll finally have to like get over. There's no Tampa, the reigning champion. Like if they come out of the North, they're just kind of like, okay, now
if they
what?
come out of the North, it's kind of like, all right, I've been doing this all year, and then they have to go up against either like
Yeah.
Vegas or Colorado, and I feel like we'll get stomped by them.
Yeah, well, if it gets reseeded, I don't know how that works exactly if they do get out, but
Yeah, it gets reseeded. So
Oh, really?
yeah, but I know that Carolina, Tampa, and Florida are all seated above them, and Vegas and Colorado are also both seated above them, and then they're seated above every single East Division team, I think. So if they get out of the North, they will be playing either Vegas, Colorado, Carolina, or Tampa.
oh, none of those sound fun.
No,
Yeah,
none of them at all.
which is pretty rough for
Yeah.
Toronto. But what I will say, because you talk about like the momentum of beating teams, I think if Toronto beat Montreal in the first round, that's going to provide momentum just as like getting over that mental block. Where I think
That's
if
true.
the Leafs win the first round, they're auto winning the second round. Because
Yeah,
I think they'll
I
be so
believe that as
confident
well.
that and they'll be the favorites in the second round where they'll be like, oh, okay, this is what winning in the playoffs feels like. Bet, let's do it again.
I think so too. It's like when you see Austin Matthews score and you see his face and you're like, okay, he's gonna score another one very soon. Like
Yeah.
you can tell the way that how like fired up he is right now. Like he's gonna be dangerous all night. And I think that
I have no doubt we can beat Canada, but
yeah.
outside of that, that's where
Outside of Canada, who knows?
yeah, that's where my doubt comes in, is any team outside of Canada.
Which is like very fair, but like also the other thing is like it's so like we still have no idea what all these teams are gonna look like facing teams in other
I
divisions.
know.
Yeah, because we haven't played them all year. It's
No,
gonna be
yeah.
so different.
Like
Yeah,
we're
that's-
so blind with everything because like I'm worried about playing Colorado, but then I'm like, what if Colorado have just looked good because they were playing a bunch of scrubs and we didn't realize it?
No one really knows. It's kind of cool. Like I've never like you never
This
really
kind of
see
makes
that
it
in
more
hockey.
interesting. It's gonna kind of suck going back to regular conferences after this.
Yeah, you can tell. You can tell the rivalries are like insane right now.
Yeah,
These
like
teams hate each other.
Oh, Tampa, Florida, we're gonna get
Tampa,
line balls
Florida
in the regular season
was.
next year.
I was watching with my buddy who is not a big hockey fan, and we were watching game one of that series. And he's just like, "This is so insane! Like, this is so like they want to kill each other."
Game one of that series is the perfect game to show to someone who had
Yeah.
never watched hockey before to get them
Yeah.
into it.
and then I think every team wants to kill Tom Wilson. So
Oh yes,
That's
so
it.
that'll be. I think that'll be interesting next year, watching every other team go up against Capitals.
Yeah, and just yeah. I mean, like, yeah, I can't even imagine like a regular season game against like Pittsburgh right now. Like, what's that gonna be?
It
yeah,
also
it's so weird.
I'm so used to like just Canada teams now. It's gonna be weird.
as a Leafs fan, it also makes me want to see more Canadian conferences, just because like we did so well in it, and I want that to happen again.
Yeah, I know. It got pretty late. I mean, we went from like the dreaded like East like old East Division when we had like Boston and Tampa. So like no matter how good we did, we would always just have to play them for, like first round, like one of them. But then again, we did lose to Columbus last year in the bubble. So
Yeah,
who knows?
But like now I know how you feel because I have. Well, the East Division was pretty loaded. Now, granted, I definitely wouldn't mind playing Buffalo 8 times a year every single season, but
I miss that.
you know
Yes.
that was a lot of fun. But yeah, no, it feels so weird because like the last hockey game I watched live before everything shut down was Leafs Penguins in Toronto, and it was just like such a normal game. And now it's been like it hasn't even been 2 years; it's been like a year and a half, and just the idea of watching Pittsburgh play Toronto in Toronto just seems like it's not even
Wrong.
like it would never exist.
Seeing the fans for the first time when I was watching the other series,
that
I
threw
was
me
like,
off a bit.
that's so weird. And then it made me hate the no fans in Toronto even more again.
When I was first watching with fans, I literally thought I was watching the wrong game. I was like, is this a replay of an old game?
Yeah, like a rerun. Yeah, it's so weird too, especially because like Ontario is still in like a lockdown basically.
Yeah.
So it feels so weird. Where like it feels unnatural. Like I feel like they're all breaking the law. Like that's not allowed. They're gonna get in trouble. Like where are the police to like shut this down? And you're
Where
like,
are
oh
the
wait,
police?
they're allowed to do this?
I know they're fine. I think there's no COVID restrictions in Florida right now, so I think they have. Do they have 100%
I don't think
capacity?
Florida ever
Were there
had.
were there ever COVID restrictions in Florida?
Fair statement.
I know that's great. Any last thoughts for you guys?
Oh.
Because
Yeah.
who knows when you'll be on the podcast again. Now's your chance to make a
man.
real bold prediction and
Well,
really
you have to
bold.
have us if the Leafs do win the cup.
If the
that's a
Leafs,
guarantee.
oh yeah, I feel like even if the Leafs get out of round one, we have to come back on with Jacob, and we just all.
I was gonna say if the Leafs do something impressive this year, I'll just let you two and Jacob do a whole podcast where you just scream about how good the Leafs are.
Yeah,
Let us
Labi
go
just
all
mute
Leafs
himself,
only.
and then it'll be us. It's a Leafs only podcast. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, because like we never talk about the Leafs on this podcast ever.
I'm excited to watch the rest of these games.
Yeah, for sure. This is
Worried, but excited.
Yeah. It's only 1-1.
I think that sums up the playoffs perfectly, though. Like worried but excited. It's not like the stress, but it's there because it matters so much.
Colorado doesn't have that right now, but yeah.
Well, that's true. Actually, like that is the greatest feeling. Like 20, whichever year we played San Jose in the finals, I was never worried. Which like sounds crazy because like now even as a Penguins fan, I'm actually so fucking scared that we're gonna lose to the Islanders. And it was so weird of a feeling. Like we're in the finals, and I was never once worried that we were gonna lose the series because we were just so much better than them. And it's like I miss that feeling. And so like when you said Colorado, I'm like, yeah, I guess that feeling does exist when your team's just like that good.
Yeah.
It's been like 5 years since I felt like that. But
it's been a while.
Yeah,
sure.
maybe Toronto.
It's been a long
will get there
time for Toronto. Yeah, maybe one day we'll see that.
Yeah, well, with that, thank you guys for coming on. This has been another episode of the Benchwarmers Sports Talk podcast. So if you're listening to this on YouTube and you enjoyed it, a like is much appreciated. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or however else you listen to your podcasts and want to leave a 5-star review, that helps us out a lot. But yeah, we just thank you for continuing to listen after all of these episodes, and we will be back next week with Jacob alongside, and we might see Kyle and Billy at some point later on. If the Leafs do something great, if the Leafs do something embarrassing, might also be fun to bring them on. But until then, we'll see you next week.
Sure, thanks for having us.